They didn't just take my fiancé, they took my wedding, like I was never supposed to have it. The elevator doors opened with a soft ding, releasing the scent of rain-soaked concrete and old building polish. Selena stepped into her penthouse apartment in Boston, her heels clicking softly against the hardwood floor. A golden twilight filtered through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting the room in nostalgic warmth. Soft, honeyed, familiar. But something felt off, the kind of off that tightens your stomach before your mind catches up. She dropped her leather duffel bag by the entryway and walked into her bedroom. The closet door was ajar. She remembered clearly she had zipped the garment bag herself, hung it with obsessive precision at the center of her walk-in closet before leaving for San Diego. Her wedding dress, her Vera Wang silk organza masterpiece, gone. Her breath caught. For a moment, she blinked, unsure if this was jet lag or a cruel trick of memory. Then, there it was, a lingering scent. Sweet, powdery, overpowering. Bianca blew. Selena didn't move. Her eyes scanned the empty hanger, the space on the closet bar, the faint crease in the carpet where the hem had brushed the floor. She was here, she whispered aloud, the room swallowing her voice. She walked back into the living room with a deliberate calm, grabbed her phone and hit the speed dial for her mother. It rang twice. "Selena?" Christine's voice was breathless, too fast, too steady. "I just got home," Selena said. "My dress is gone, and the apartment smells like Bianca's perfume." A silence, a pause too long to be innocent. Christine exhaled slowly. "Sweetheart, there's something I need to tell you." Selena didn't respond. They got married yesterday." Selena's mouth opened, but no sound came out. The words were weightless and brutal, like snowflakes that burned. "In my dress?" she asked, almost as an afterthought. Christine didn't answer. She didn't have to. Selena hung up. She walked to the kitchen, poured herself 2 fingers of bourbon into a crystal glass, then carried it to her desk. The rain had started again, tapping against the windows like cautious fingers. She opened her laptop, heart pounding but her hands steady. One click, then another. Instagram, Twitter, even LinkedIn. There they were. Bianca and Julian laughing under twinkle lights. Champagne flutes raised. Her white silk gown radiant under warm fairy lights. Selena's gown. Her eyes scanned the caption. "When you know, you just know. Sorry, sis. Sometimes love can't wait, Star Bianca, and Julian forever." Selena sipped her bourbon. The burn grounded her. Memories darted through her mind like darts. Bianca squealing, "Can I help pick your cake flavors?" Julian insisting she take the San Diego trip. "Just 3 days, babe. You'll be back before your final fitting." It had all been choreographed. Every piece of her life, every joyful detail she had shared with them, had been converted into ammunition. Selena opened her messages. There it was, Daniel's text. "Daniel, private equity. Ready when you are. The votes are leaning your way." She didn't smile, but something cold and resolute flickered behind her eyes. She clicked into a secure folder titled Backup Plan. Inside, spreadsheets, shareholding diagrams, NDAs, time-stamped memos. Selena had always been the silent strategist. Julian might have smiled for the cameras, charmed investors, but she had been the one moving money behind the scenes. When Julian needed to acquire controlling shares for the startup that had made his name, it was Selena who made it happen. Quietly, legally, but with a signature only she could give. She had watched, learned, and protected her position just in case. Apparently, just in case had arrived. Her eyes fell again on the photo. Bianca in her dress, Julian by her side, their smugness poorly disguised as joy. She didn't cry. Not even close. Instead, she right-clicked on the image. Save image as... She typed, fuel. A deep breath. A calm inhale. Then she opened the folder marked Backup Plan and double-clicked the document titled Motion Authorized.pdf. At the top, her name. Selena Harlow, Control. She still had it, and tomorrow, they would feel it. They thought I'd be destroyed. They forgot who I am. While they toasted with champagne, I followed the money. The city glowed in wet amber outside Selena's apartment. The soft hum of traffic mixed with the clicking of her keyboard as lines of transaction data illuminated her face in pale blue light. It was just past midnight. Somewhere across town, Bianca was probably still basking in the afterglow of stolen vows, sipping rosé in Selena's name. But here, in the silence of her penthouse, Selena hunted quietly through digital records, and digital records never lied. She pulled up the joint investment portfolio Julian had insisted she not worry her genius over. Her eyes narrowed. 3 disbursements had been made in the past week, unusually timed and suspiciously rounded. One labeled Venue Coordination, Lux and Bloom, $72,000. Another, Private Travel, Say, Resort Holdings, $58,000. And finally, Custom Gown, Blue Label Atelier, $43,500. Her hand hovered over the trackpad. Lux and Bloom was a known wedding venue company. Say handled boutique honeymoon packages. Blue Label, that was the designer she had commissioned for her gown. Julian had paid for his wedding to Bianca using their shared investment account, one where she held 51% controlling ownership. The audacity wasn't just personal. It was financial fraud. She took a long breath, then typed 2 words to a contact she hadn't reached out to in months. Selena, we need to talk. The response came within seconds. Daniel, Capitol Grounds, 9 a.m. You're not the only one looking into this. Selena's eyes flicked to the corner of her screen. An unread email blinked in her inbox. From Bruno Reynolds, her longtime legal counsel. Subject, Asset Trace Alert, Preliminary Findings. She flagged it for later. Right now, she needed someone who could help her connect the dots before Bruno came in with the full strategy. Capitol Grounds was the kind of cafe that looked like a startup's lobby. Plants, concrete, glass, and way too many people pretending to write novels. But the back table by the window was quiet, and Daniel was already waiting when she arrived. He stood as she approached, still in his usual charcoal gray blazer, same tousled hair from college, though a bit more refined now. His eyes held something deeper than concern, something he didn't say out loud. I ordered your poison, he said, sliding over a tall glass. Oat milk latte, no sugar, like your sense of humor. Selena arched a brow but accepted the drink. Thanks. Let's get to it. Daniel pulled a black folder from his satchel. Julian's been sloppy, he said, flipping open the pages. He funneled over $200,000 through a shell company named Monarch 52 Holdings. The registry? Cayman Islands. But what he didn't account for was that the parent company links back to the Harlow Equities portfolio. Selena finished, scanning the documents. Which I control. Exactly. Daniel leaned closer. What's worse is these expenditures required dual signature authorization. The records show Julian forged yours. Selena's grip tightened on the folder. She stared at the photocopy of her supposed signature. A near-perfect imitation, except for the missing loop in the S. He always overlooked the loop. I assume you're here because you want to press charges, Daniel added carefully. No. Her tone was sharp, focused. Not yet. I want this public, controlled, timed. She pulled out her phone, opened her email, and forwarded Bruno's flagged message to Daniel. Bruno's prepping a motion for breach of fiduciary duty, but I want it clean. I want it to hurt him where it counts. Reputation, not revenge. Daniel smiled, half impressed. So, you want the slow burn? I want him to think the fire isn't coming until he's already engulfed. He sat back, whistling low. That's why I liked you. You don't just burn bridges. You replace them with landmines. Selena looked up. You liked me? Daniel blinked as if realizing what he said. In college, you were always out of reach. Their eyes held for a second too long. Then she cleared her throat. Let's talk strategy. What's our first move? Daniel flipped to a highlighted page. There's a gala next Friday. Harris and Lynn Investment Awards. Julian's set to appear. We leak just enough to the press that morning. Suggest an internal audit is underway. Let the sharks circle. Selena nodded slowly. And when the board questions him, we give them this. Daniel held up a scanned document. The final authorization for the blue label gown, signed with your name, dated 3 days before your trip. Selena stared at it. She remembered that day. Bianca had offered to drop off dry cleaning. Selena hadn't thought twice. But now, it was clear. Bianca hadn't just been in her apartment. She had rifled through her documents, copied her handwriting, and handed Julian the keys to ruin himself. Selena tapped the paper with one manicured nail. I want this in front of the Harris board Friday morning. Daniel raised his coffee. To clarity and calculated cruelty. She clinked her glass against his. Later that night, back in her apartment, she sat by the window overlooking the Charles River. Laptops open, tabs multiplying. She opened the investment account again, clicked into the administrative settings. Her name was still listed as primary authorizer. She grinned. Funny how things shift when you own the account. Turns out betrayal leaves a paper trail, and I own the ledger. The office of Bruno Reynolds had always reminded Selena of a forgotten library. Thick carpet muffling every footstep, brass floor lamps glowing like candlelight, and stacks of files forming uneven towers across oak furniture that smelled faintly of pine and polish. On a rainy Thursday afternoon, she sat across from him, flipping page by page through the physical evidence of her fiancé's betrayal. Bruno, ever meticulous in his approach, had assembled what looked like a criminal case. Disbursements, contracts, forged signatures, invoices from wedding vendors, and even screen captures from the Monarca Shell Company's financial trail. Everything had dates, timestamps, and initials. Selena read them not with shock, but with steel in her eyes. This, she said, tapping a page, is the wine cellar rental at the venue. $45,000 for ambiance. That's more than my mother's annual grant to the literacy fund. Bruno raised a brow, sipping dark espresso from a chipped mug that said, Trust me, I'm a lawyer. You're not planning to go public yet, are you? Not yet, Selena replied, sliding the page into a growing final cut pile. But I want the board to know who they're really celebrating at the gala. Daniel sat near the bookshelves, watching her with quiet intensity. I brought something, he said, pulling out a flash drive. You might want to hear this before you go nuclear. Selena raised an eyebrow as he handed it over. She plugged it into Bruno's laptop. Static, then Julian's voice, clear as glass. Look, babe, the way I see it, if we pitch this as a rebrand, love, unity, starting fresh, it's PR gold. Plus, I can tap into the Angelus Capital Fund. Selena doesn't even check the subledgers. Bianca's laugh followed. I mean, she's too busy saving the world to notice she's funding my flower arrangements. Selena pressed pause. The silence that followed was deafening. Daniel didn't say anything. He didn't have to. Bruno leaned back slowly. Legally, that's reckless. Morally, it's volcanic. Selena's lips curled into something between disdain and precision. Good. Let it erupt. Bruno placed a folder in front of her. I've drafted the motion. Breach of fiduciary duty, embezzlement, fraud. You sign this, we file first thing Monday. She picked up the pen. For a moment, her hand hovered. Then, she signed her name with a stroke so crisp it cut through the silence. I'm not filing it yet, she said, placing the signed document back in the folder. Not until after the gala. That's risky, Bruno warned. No, Selena countered. It's strategic. She pulled out a separate envelope from her tote bag and began stuffing it with the curated evidence. Screenshots, financial statements, that florist invoice, the Shell Company ledger, and the pièce de résistance. A high-resolution photo of Bianca in her wedding gown, standing beside Julian under an archway of white orchids. On the back of the envelope, she wrote in gold ink, To the board. The phone buzzed. Christine's name blinked on the screen. Against her better judgment, Selena answered. Mom. Her mother's voice was soft but strained. Sweetheart, I just saw a post. You're digging into legal things now? Bianca told me you're angry. I get it, but what? Selena's tone didn't waver. She's your sister. You've always been the strong one, the logical one. Don't make this messier than it is. Let them be happy. You can rebuild." Selena closed her eyes. She stole my future mother. And he used my name, my money, my trust. This isn't about bitterness. It's about boundaries. Christine exhaled. "You've always been cold when hurt. Don't shut us out." "I'm not shutting anyone out. I'm just finally locking the door." She ended the call. Bruno cleared his throat. "It's difficult when family twists the knife." Selena stood and slipped the envelope into her briefcase. Julian and Bianca didn't just twist it. They smiled while doing it. Daniel followed her to the elevator. "You're still going to the gala?" She nodded. "In red." He grinned despite himself. "Making a statement?" "No, just making sure they remember who owned the room before they walked in." Back home, she laid everything out. The dress was gone, but the blueprint of her original wedding remained. The venue scouting notes, the guest list, the original seating chart, a sharp reminder of what they thought they'd erased. But Selena had rewritten the entire second act. She opened the folder labeled Gala Drop and added one final printout: the notarized ownership breakdown of the Angelus Capital Fund. 51%, Selena. 49%, Julian. It was always her name that carried the weight. He'd just borrowed it. And now, the credit line had expired. She packed her things deliberately, like one might pack for court or war. Red silk dress, gold pin drive, and matching heels. No tears, no hesitation. She paused by the window, watching the Boston skyline light up. The city always looked clean from a distance, even when rot festered beneath. "I won't ruin their wedding," she whispered into the night. "I'll just make sure it's the last celebration they ever host." They invited everyone, except the one person who could ruin it all. The chandelier light shimmered like a constellation above the rosewood ballroom, casting gold flecks across the sea of tuxedos and sequined gowns. Conversations hummed, champagne glasses clinked, and just as Julian began his rehearsed opening speech at the Horizon Tech launch gala, the grand doors parted. Selena stepped in. No one had invited her. But silence didn't wait for a cue. It fell like a guillotine. She wore sapphire silk, flowing, regal, untouched by trend or desperation. Heads turned, glasses paused mid-air. Bianca's smile twitched at the corners, already faltering as Selena's heels clicked against marble. Julian froze. He recovered half a second too late, masking panic with a tight-lipped smile as murmurs rippled. Selena didn't look at either of them. She didn't need to. Her eyes scanned the crowd instead, catching Daniel's gaze across the ballroom. He gave her a nearly imperceptible nod. Then he moved, subtle, practiced, and passed a slim manila envelope to Bruno near the drinks table. Bruno, dressed like any other board lawyer, made his way to the head table where Mr. Warren, chairman of the Harris Global Board, was already eyeing Selena's unannounced entrance. Bruno leaned down. Words were exchanged. The envelope changed hands. Julian's voice wavered at the microphone. "And with Horizon Tech, we believe the future of digital health lies not just in innovation, but in collaboration." Mr. Warren slid open the envelope. His expression shifted from vague curiosity to still, narrowed alertness. One by one, the board members beside him began reading over his shoulder. Selena's lips curved, barely. Julian noticed it too late. "Tonight marks a new chapter," he faltered mid-sentence as Mr. Warren stood up. Then another board member. And another. They left their seats without a word, filing silently toward a side door. Bianca's nails clenched around her champagne flute. Julian blinked rapidly, stammering something about technical adjustments. Selena remained rooted at the room's center, as if the entire affair orbited her. Daniel sidled beside her. "They're reading it." She didn't look at him. Good. The ballroom air shifted. Curiosity turned to tension. Guests whispered. Someone dropped a fork. A member of staff approached her. "Miss, the board has requested your presence in the conference room." Selena nodded. The room was stark, leather chairs, frosted glass, a single screen ready for projection. Around the table, the power circle of Harris Global waited, stone-faced and unreadable. Mr. Warren gestured to an empty seat across from him. Selena didn't sit. "I'll be brief," she said. "I own 51% of the investment fund used to underwrite Horizon Tech's launch. Julian never asked where the money came from. He was too busy making speeches." A few glances exchanged around the table. "I'm calling the capital back, immediately. The project is frozen pending review." "Miss," one board member began, uncertain. "This could destabilize." "I know." She met his eyes without blinking. "But consider the alternative, launching a flagship innovation built on stolen trust." Footsteps echoed in the corridor. The door swung open. Julian entered, breath shallow, eyes darting. Selena didn't flinch. "Oh, you're just in time for the vote." "They thought I'd show up crying. I showed up owning everything." The heavy curtains in the rosewood conference room muffled the sounds of the gala still echoing in the ballroom. The door shut with a quiet finality as Selena took her seat at the polished wooden table. Across from her, Julian fidgeted in his chair, his confident exterior cracking with every passing second. Bianca stood beside him, her smile long vanished, replaced with a pale mask of uncertainty. The members of the Harris Global Board sat silently, their expressions unreadable. Bruno, standing just to Selena's right, placed a single document in front of each board member. Detailed evidence of financial misuse, forged authorizations, and the smoking gun. Julian's unauthorized use of investor funds for personal PR gains. Mr. Warren cleared his throat, lifting the first document. "Ms. Hart, is it true you hold majority control of the investment fund used to initiate Horizon Tech?" Selena nodded once. 51%. It was structured that way for protection. Apparently, I needed it. Julian's mouth parted. "That's impossible." "We agreed the fund was jointly controlled." "No," Selena cut in calmly. "You assumed." A quiet beat followed before Mr. Warren continued. "Mr. Collins, you've been accused of using these funds to promote your personal wedding." Julian leaned forward, desperate now. "Look, I didn't know." Selena slid another document across the table. "Here's your wife-to-be's involvement. Bianca accessed my private profile through the internal company server. This transfer," she tapped the highlighted line, "was made after she forwarded a copy of my signature to your shared drive." Bianca's face turned ghostly white. "That's a lie," she stammered. "You can't prove I—" Selena glanced at Bruno. He clicked play on a voice memo. Bianca's voice, distorted slightly from the recording, whispered through the room. "Just sign it like she would. No one checks the back end." The air turned to ice. Christine stepped in from the hallway just as the last words played. Her voice cut the silence with practiced clarity. "I warned you, Bianca," she said, looking directly at her youngest daughter. "But you were too busy stealing things that never belonged to you." Julian turned to Bianca, realization dawning too late. Selena stood slowly. "This isn't about revenge. It's about rectification. I'm not suing for heartbreak. I'm suing for fraud, and for the dignity your actions tried to erase." The board took their vote. Julian's role as CEO of the Horizon Initiative was officially revoked. Bianca was barred from all internal affairs, and with a motion passed unanimously, Selena was appointed as the new managing partner of Horizon Tech under Harris Global's oversight. For the first time that night, applause broke the silence. Bianca, trembling, leaned in as Selena passed by. "You destroyed us," she hissed. Selena didn't pause. "Number you did. I just filed the paperwork." "They stole my wedding. I built an empire instead." The golden light of late afternoon spilled across the glass-paneled office like a warm exhale. From where I stood, the Boston harbor stretched beyond the horizon, calm and endless. My reflection merged with the sky against the glass, white suit, unshaken spine, and eyes that no longer flinched. There were no guests, no flower petals, no vows. But somehow, this felt more like a wedding than the one they stole. I turned back to my desk, where 2 contracts lay side by side, both signed with crisp precision. One was the acquisition of a European health tech firm. The other marked our first international office launch. Paris, then Berlin, then Singapore. We were scaling faster than expected, and for once, I wasn't trailing anyone's shadow. I was leading. Daniel knocked lightly before entering. He didn't wait for permission, he never did, but his presence never felt invasive. "You're early," I said, arching a brow. He held a simple white box tied with navy ribbon. "Just came from the team upstairs. They wanted me to give you this." Inside was fabric, soft, ivory, hand-stitched with minute beading at the sleeves. My breath caught. "It's not the original," he said quickly, sensing the silence. "But it's yours. For real this time." It was a replica of the wedding dress Bianca had taken, except this one wasn't designed for an altar. It was tailored for a queen. I pressed my hand against the bodice. "They made this?" He nodded. "They said it's for the woman who built something worth wearing it for." The air shifted as the notification pinged on my phone. One unread email. From Bianca. Subject: "No excuses, just this. I don't ask for forgiveness, but I thank you for being stronger than me. Maybe it should have been your wedding all along, or maybe you needed something bigger." I read it twice, then again. There was no apology, but there was something real, a recognition, and, perhaps, regret. Another call buzzed in. Christine. I hesitated, then picked up. "Hi, Mom." There was a long pause on the other end. "Just breathing. I was wrong," she said. Her voice was quieter than I remembered. "I raised the wrong daughter to be strong." I swallowed the lump forming in my throat. "No," I replied, keeping my tone even. "You didn't. I just chose a different path." The silence between us wasn't heavy. It was healing. After the call, I walked toward the balcony, the dress still in its box, the light catching its edges like a crown of sun. Daniel followed. "You okay?" I nodded, leaning on the railing, letting the breeze carry my hair. "Yeah, for the first time in a long time." He raised his phone. Smile. I didn't pose, just looked at the harbor, the skyline, and let it all soak in. The moment, the freedom, the earned power. He snapped the photo. Seconds later, I posted it to my story with the caption, "Some weddings fall apart. Some women rise instead." Behind us, the murmur of the office buzzed back to life. A young associate popped in, wide-eyed and breathless. "Boss, what's next?" I turned to her, then to Daniel, then back at the glowing skyline. The future no longer scared me. It thrilled me. "We scale," I said, a slow grin spreading. "Then we build more." The wedding they stole became nothing more than a footnote in a much bigger story, one written in bold ink and signed in power. Selena didn't scream, didn't beg, and yet she turned the very empire that betrayed her into the foundation of her own. Justice, when pursued with strategy instead of spite, doesn't just restore balance, it redefines it. Like a storm that clears the sky, the truth may arrive late, but it always leaves clarity behind. Because sometimes the most graceful revenge is building something no one can ever take from you.